Hey everyone, welcome back. I share simple and affordable home decor tips to help you intentionally create a cozy home. In today's video, we are going to dive into a bunch of fall DIYs. We have some thrift store pumpkins to make over, a wreath to make, and I will also be showing you how I created the paper mache inspired bowl filler I featured in my last video. So let's go ahead and get right into these DIYs. We are going to first get started with this paper mache inspired bowl filler. I do want to give credit to Evelyn Hernandez. She shared a similar DIY on her channel, and I used what she shared as a springboard to create this bowl filler. I picked up this bag of dried fruit at the thrift store, and as you can see, they were all different colors and a few of them had some cracks in them. So the first thing I wanted to do was give them all a base coat of paint to cover everything. I used a mix of two colors, just a white chalk paint and then a grayish color called Mineral, which was also a chalk paint. I will link all the supplies that I can down below for you. So the next thing I'm going to do is create a watered down glue mixture with some matte Mod Podge and water. It's going to be 1 part water to 1 part Mod Podge. This is what you will use to adhere the tissue paper to the fruit pieces. I just ripped up some plain white tissue paper that I had on hand and just started adding it to the fruit. I created several layers on each piece and then let them all dry completely. Next, I am using a damp paper towel to apply a mixture of a couple different colors of paint. I am using a white chalk paint, the color Territorial Beige, as well as some chalk paint in the color Oatmeal. I am just applying the colors and then blending them all together to give the dried fruit a little bit of depth and dimension. The final step is to add a dark paint wash for some additional dimension. I am using the color Melted Chocolate that has been diluted with water and just lightly applying it in a few places. I let everything dry really well and then added it to this really pretty pedestal bowl with some acorns for a fall look in my entryway. So next up we have this fall wreath that I created for my front door. I reuse this grapevine wreath all of the time for the different seasons. I just change out the florals. I really love an asymmetrical look on a wreath because you don't have to use as many florals, making it really budget friendly. I use picks from Hobby Lobby and I picked these up when they were, I believe, 40% off. So the whole look that I am creating on this wreath cost me less than $10 to create. And I say this all of the time on my channel, but the thrift stores always have these grapevine wreaths there for a really affordable price, and all you have to do is pull off the florals and then you can add in whatever picks or florals you want to create a completely different look. I am using these larger picks as the base of the wreath, and I often just use pipe cleaners to secure a few of them to the grapevine, but I really just weave in the picks inside of the vines to secure them, and then I just go back in with the pipe cleaners just to secure some of the larger ones. I always start out working on the wreath flat, but then I transfer it to wherever it's going to be hanging, and in this case it's going to be on my front door. And then I will go back and tweak the placement of the picks, because once you hang it up sometimes things look a little bit different, so I always hang it up before I put the finishing touches on and kind of move things around as needed. I created a really simple bow using some velvet ribbon that I found at Hobby Lobby. I am not a fancy bow tire, so I keep it pretty simple and easy. Okay, so next up we are creating some realistic looking pumpkins using thrift store pumpkins, and then I also have a couple that are left over from years past that I thought that I could possibly repurpose, like that large white one back there with the decal that I'm just going to peel off. I did spot these ones at Walmart, which were about $7 a piece, and I believe I also saw some at Dollar Tree that you could use for this project as well. First, I'm going to be covering up the original colors with the color light beige. I will say I played around quite a bit with the coloring of these pumpkins before I got them the way that I liked them, but that's the beauty of paint. If it doesn't work out at first, just paint over it and try again. I pulled out this real pumpkin that I had picked up for some inspiration, but you really can't go wrong here. There are so many different colors of pumpkins. You could also pull some photos up online and pick the colors that you like in your home. I am using a wet paper towel here to blend a variety of colors together. And again, I will link all of the colors that I tried out, and I will be sure to note which ones I liked the best. So this process is a layering process. It is adding colors and then going back in and then adding additional colors and kind of blending them all together to create that dimension and depth. So here I am using a paintbrush with darker brown paint in the grooves of the pumpkin to create some depth and shadows. I then added a mixture of the colors orange, sherbet, and peach, and I'm going to be blending this all over the top of the other colors. I actually ended up adding some more peach over the top of everything once it all dried because it was a little darker than I wanted. But again, you just have to play with the paint colors to get to things where you want them to be. So here's where I'm going back in and adding some more of that orange sherbet color mixed with a little bit of the peach just over top of the entire pumpkin. You could add a little bit of water to this as well and make it more of a wash depending on how dark your base is. Mine was pretty dark, so I didn't add any water to this. So I was just trying to bring in just a little bit more of that peachy color that I wanted to be showing through on the top of the pumpkin. I read a bunch of blogs about creating realistic pumpkins, and I will link the one that I actually ended up using to create these stems for you. But the first thing that you're going to need for this is some sisal rope, and you're going to be cutting the rope into strips that are about 3 times the length of the original stem that is actually on the pumpkin. Then you are going to want to pull apart the parts of the rope like I'm doing here, and this is actually what you're going to use to create the base of the stem. I used a glue gun to adhere the rope to the pumpkin, and then I kind of just kept working around the pumpkin. Once you get all of the strips adhered to the pumpkin, then you can go back and you can trim the rope to the desired length of your stem. So when I went to trim my stem, I actually left a few pieces that were a little bit longer, and I pulled apart some of those ends on the rope again to kind of make it look like the pumpkin had been ripped from the vine in the pumpkin patch. I then also went back in with my glue gun, which you'll see here in just a minute, and in between the ropes, I added some additional glue just to hold everything together and make sure the stem was going to hold its shape. Next, you're going to coat the stem with some Mod Podge, and then we're going to be adding some cinnamon to the top of it, like you were as if you were glittering something. You can buy inexpensive cinnamon from the dollar store for this part of the project. I wanted to go back in and add just a little bit of dimension to my stems. So I am using some dark brown and light brown paint, and I am just going in with the side of my sponge brush and just adding a little bit of a mix of those two colors along the edges of the stem, just to change the coloring a little bit and give it more of an authentic look. I have seen some people buy real pumpkins and then cut off the stems and use those on their faux pumpkins. And I guess if you had a use for the real pumpkins after you removed the stems, you could totally do that. But in my opinion, I feel like this kind of defeats the purpose of making your own. So that's why I opted to give this a try. The final step is going to be to seal all of the paint. I actually used two different sealers. The shellac I used on the stem, and then the gloss clear coat I used on the base of the pumpkin, just to add back in that authentic look to it. An actual real pumpkin has just a little bit of a sheen to it, but you could certainly use a matte clear coat if you prefer. I used the shellac on the stem to ensure that all of the cinnamon was sealed and would stay in place. I had one other pumpkin left that I wanted to try just a little bit of a different color scheme. So I decided to paint the base a mixture of white chalk paint and a bit of just a beige color. I then went in with my paintbrush and wet paper towel with the beige and a little bit of melted chocolate color mixed together to create some dimension. The basic idea with painting these pumpkins is to start with the lighter color first and then go in with a darker version of the lighter color to add in those shadows and depth and dimension and kind of blend it all out together. I did leave the stem on this one just because I didn't think that it was too bad, but you could certainly change it out if you wanted to. When I style my pumpkins, I like to turn them in different directions to give them more of an authentic look. I love how much texture the stems bring into all of the different spaces of my home. I decided to add some of the pumpkins to this gathering basket with some greenery and those blackberry stems from Hobby Lobby that I absolutely love, just to try out something a little bit different. Again, I always like playing around with ideas and trying out different things. If you have a large kitchen counter, this could also look really pretty there as well. I really hope that you all enjoyed this video and that you got some inspiration for your home. I am looking forward to sharing more thrifting, affordable, and cozy home inspiration with all of you soon. I hope that you'll join me for my next video where I share some simple and affordable ideas for styling your home for the month of October. Lots more pumpkin and festive fall ideas coming your way soon.